Huawei. That's how it's pronounced, even though in English it doesn't seem to make sense. But regardless, I talked about this company back in mid-October. Remember the Chinese microchip hack video I did? In that video, I mentioned Huawei because of concerns with them moving into Canada, and I covered other topics in the video as well, but the main story was that the Chinese government was using the company Supermicro. China produces 75% of the world's mobile phones and 90% of the world's personal computers. And the Chinese government seems to have a nasty habit of infiltrating foreign nations through the products that they make for them. This is part of the reason that China is happy to be a massive exporter for the world at the expense of their citizenry. It's not all for profit, it's for control as well. If China can produce technology for the world, they're having their hands on the inner workings of that technology. And that gives the Communist Party the ability to manipulate it how they want, as long as, it's not too obvious, of course. So that's what happened to US government contractors. It happened to Apple, Amazon, Samsung, big banks, and likely many more places. The Chinese government had a hand in hacking through technology imported to foreign countries. Now, this specific news story on the arrest of Huawei's CFO is huge, because Huawei is the company at the forefront of China's effort to be self-sufficient in the strategic technologies market. And the woman arrested is the daughter of the founder of Huawei, and the US is seeking her extradition after convincing Canada to arrest her back on December 1st. The reason was that it's suspected she violated US trade sanctions against Iran. Her bail hearing has been set for Friday, and of course, China was quick to react with outrage, demanding that the US and Canada work to free the arrested CFO Meng. It's said that this goes beyond simply being rare, and it crosses into the territory of unprecedented. It's currently unclear how much of a role Trump played in this, although the arrest did happen the same day as Trump's trade talks with China. But regardless, China seems almost certain that Meng's arrest will provoke a major escalation in the trade war. Now, in the trade talks, Trump has insisted that China should stop providing government support to strategic sectors, including artificial intelligence and robotics. Both of these areas are covered by Huawei, and it would be one thing if the advances came as a result of economic stimulation in these areas, whether artificial through government subsidies or provided by the free market if China went to the free market, but that's not the case. A lot of these advances came on the backs of Western innovators. The technology is stolen by the CCP and then added to their arsenal. That's why Trump has complained about Chinese technology theft in the past. Now, the trade talks with China were delayed for another 90 days with an agreement for no new tariffs, but the old ones will remain in place without increasing. Now, this arrest adds a certain tension to that 90-day countdown for both sides. The US has the upper hand because the arrest of the CFO of Huawei could throw a pretty big wrench into China's Made in China 2025 plan to upgrade Chinese industry. There are several factors involved with that plan, and one is technological innovation. Trump is going against the Made in China 2025 plan by telling China to stop subsidizing strategic tech markets. And when that's coupled with this massive arrest, it just further complicates the plan to upgrade Chinese industries. So with this arrest, there's further leverage added to the immediate 90-day trade talk countdown, as well as the long-term Made in China 2025 plan. Now, a former CIA China analyst said, the US is trying to deter Chinese espionage and make it clear that there are real consequences. Huawei overtook Apple in smartphone shipments and aims to surpass Samsung, while targeting record sales of $102 billion this year, which is more than Boeing. That's why the Trump administration blocked a merger that would have led to 5G in China. Huawei has been blocked from selling its gear in Australia and New Zealand. They got frozen out of a Korean contract, and they face US-led competition even in Papua New Guinea. Keep in mind, Huawei has also been pushing to install 5G in Canada, and US senators are urging Canada to not do it. The reason that this would affect the US is because of Five Eyes. It puts the Canadian national security at risk, and because Five Eyes includes the countries that have barred Huawei products, Australia and New Zealand, and Five Eyes includes the US and the UK, The Chinese government just has to massively infiltrate one of those countries to gain access to intel from the others. Canada allowing them access to 5G would do that. The US senators even wrote that there is ample evidence to suggest that no major Chinese company is independent of the Chinese government and Communist Party. And Huawei, which China's government and military tout as a national champion, is no exception. US leverage also surfaces in the fact that Huawei still relies on America for its equipment and its networking gear for smartphones. ZTE Corp is an example of a Chinese company that almost collapsed after US penalties were handed down for violating Iran sanctions. Huawei is crucial in China's separation from Europe and the US, and if Trump didn't issue this arrest, it could show that there's no real desire for the US government to make a deal with China, but rather to just bar them from becoming independent in terms of technology. Either way, this is a huge arrest that caused Huawei's stock prices to tank, and really stocks all across Asia fell. So this is something to keep a watchful eye on, and we'll have to see how it progresses during these tense trade talks and the push to keep Huawei at bay from stealing Western technology. So I'll keep an eye on this, as I'm sure it'll continue to be relevant while trade talks are in progress over the next 90 days or so. So thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope that you found this video useful. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't.